Welcome to O'Brien Stadium on the campus of Eastern Illinois University, the 98th annual IHSA Boys Track and Field State Championships. Hello everyone, I'm Brian Wheeler. Pleased that you've joined us for what we think will be some terrific competition here today. The wind is definitely going to be a factor, as you can tell from the dew on the top of my head. There also is some sun trying to break through the clouds, so I think the weather could be a factor. We'll talk about that as the day progresses. My broadcast partner coached this sport for some 16 years. He is now the athletic director at Springfield High School, Lee Hallberg. And Lee, let's talk first of all about the schools that have the most qualifiers and some key individuals that we'll be watching today, starting with Class A.
I think there are 5 teams that have a legitimate shot at winning a trophy, if not winning the state title today. The 2 prohibitive favorites, in my opinion, are Herscher and Caro. Caro second a year ago. They have a tradition of doing well in this meet, and I suspect they'll be the team, when it's all over with, that's on top. Individually, I think there are 2 young men that have distinguished themselves throughout the course of this season in their careers. Dirk Hanlon from Mahomet Seymour in the shot and discus. Kirsten McAfee, the defending 400 champ from Pawnee.
Well, we certainly can't ignore the Class AA side of things. How about the favorites and the top performers in that class?
Well, I see 5 or 6 teams that have a shot at a trophy. I give the nod to East St. Louis Senior and Decatur MacArthur. Things are going to have to go well for them. There are a few key individuals, but I think those 2 teams are the 2 that may battle for the state title. Individually, Kerwin Beatty is the premier athlete in this event. Eric Dabner from MacArthur will give him a great race, I'm sure, in the sprints.
Well, it's the 18th year of 2-class competition here in Illinois. We are expecting some terrific meets, and we will have the 3,200-meter relay as our first event as Sports Channel presents the IHSA Boys Track and Field Championships. We're about set for the Class A 3,200-meter relay finals. In Alley 1 will be Maple Park, Joy Westmer, and Low Point Washburn. Alley 2 will have St. Joseph Ogden, Rock Island Alleman, and Elmwood Park. In Alley 3 will be Wheaton St. Francis, Rushville, and Coal City. And in Alley 4, Herscher, Lamont, and Normal University High School. Keys to this event, Lee.
Well, definitely you want to have somebody who can lead off in about 156 or 157 in that first leg. Just establish good position up front. Give your anchor man a chance to win this for you if you've got a good one. Generally speaking, the pace is always quick in the early going, and sometimes this race is controlled by somebody 5-6 yards off the leaders, just sits back, settles in, and waits for an opportunity in that second lap to make a move.
8 laps around the track in the 3,200-meter relays.
Maple Park Canelan was the fastest qualifier out of yesterday's prelims at 8:08.5. Right now in second. St. Joe Ogden was the second fastest qualifier at 8:08.77. They've taken the lead as we head into that second lap of the first leg.
We are through 1 lap of the 3,200-meter relay finals. We're heading into the last leg of the Class A 3,200-meter relay finals. Maple Park Canelan in front.
Canelan has led virtually at every exchange thus far. They got a great leadoff leg, broke it open. St. Joe Ogden has battled and held right on in this. They got a great leg out of the number 3 man. They're right back in it now, but it looks like a 2-team race at this point.
It was certainly a substantial lead for Canelan for much of this race, but as you can see, St. Joe Ogden in the maroon and white making a strong charge here.
Rushville has run well throughout this relay. Now moving into third is Wheaton St. Francis. One of the efforts of Steve Faley, who's doing something that few have ever done and attempted in this meet. He's entered in 4 distance events. He's anchoring this 3,200-meter relay and doing it well.
Canelan still with about a 4-step lead. Gun sounds for the final lap. Right now it's Wheaton St. Francis in third. Rushville falling back a distant fourth. We have the makings of a pretty good final lap here. Maple Park, Canelan in white.
Moving up closer to those two front runners is Steve Faley from Wheaton St. Francis as well as we approach the final turn.
Steve Faley making up a lot of ground. You'll see him coming into your picture, I'm sure, very shortly.
Folks,
there he is.
It's not over. What a finish. It is Canelan, St. Joe Ogden, and Wheaton St. Francis. But I'm not certain there's room on the inside.
The last quarter lap. Oh,
St.
my!
Francis did it.
Steve Faley with a terrific final lap. And he can barely stand.
Outstanding. I didn't think there was room, Brian, on the inside. Obviously there was, and he took advantage of it.
The great runners know where to find their path. And Steve Faley certainly found one in this last lap. Look at all the ground, Lee, that he made up.
Well, he's one of the premier runners in Class A track and field among the distance runners, and he just judged the finish line well. He just kept coming, made up a little bit at a time. As these two young men from Canelan and Muhammad Seymour moved out a little bit wide, they opened up an avenue for him to slide right inside, and he did. Wheaton St. Francis.
Canelan a very close second. With the heroic efforts of Steve Faley, giving Wheaton St. Francis the victory in the Class A 3,200 meter relay finals. Now we're set for the Class AA 3,200 meter relay finals in Alley 1, Wheaton North, Crystal Lake Central, and East St. Louis Lincoln. In Alley 2, Oswego, Naperville Central, and Chicago Marist. In Alley 3, East St. Louis Senior, Pekin, and Stanford Olympia. And in Alley 4, Chicago Vocational, Normal Community High School, and Downers Grove South. Well, if the AA race can top the Class A race, we're in for something special.
Well, nothing would surprise me. Wheaton North was the fastest qualifier out of yesterday's prelims at 7:57.21. We've got 5 of these teams that ran in this event a year ago in the finals. It has the makings of being a great one.
Wheaton North, Alley 1, Position 1. Oswego, another school that we'll be looking out for. They're in Alley 2, Position 1.
Your leader is Oswego.
Oswego with the early advantage. But East St. Louis Senior now pulling just a bit ahead.
Leaders came through at right around 57.8.
They are still well bunched after one lap of the Class AA 3,200 meter relay finals. Still anybody's race. We are approaching the final 2 laps of the Class AA 3,200 meter relay finals. East St. Louis Lincoln and East St. Louis Senior bunched with Wheaton North right now.
Well, it's developed into a 3-team race. You know, it's showtime now for East St. Louis Lincoln and Senior. The race for the state title begins maybe with this event. East St. Louis Senior came in with the fastest qualifying time out of the sectionals at 7:54, but I'll tell you, they've got their hands full right now with Wheaton North and Lincoln.
Naperville Central right now is in the second bunch of teams, but they have somebody that could be along the lines of a Steve Faley by the time this one is over, Lee.
Well, you know, it's an interesting story. This young man didn't run, I believe, in this relay yesterday. He won his heat. Tim Shoup from Naperville Central won his heat in the 800, but eased up down the final straightaway and just missed qualifying for the Open 800. And his assistant coach John Perry at Naperville Central informed me that Tim had not been beaten this year. Unfortunately, he's not in the finals of that event. He's got an opportunity to redeem himself today. We'll see if he's got enough left to do so. He's going to have to go a ways to catch these three, however, out front.
1 lap to go. The gun sounds. East St. Louis Lincoln is in the orange and white. East St. Louis Senior, all orange. And Wheaton North there, yellow shirt and the blue trunks. It does not appear that anyone from the second bunch of schools will be able to make a run at this.
I tell you, that wind, if you look at the flag throughout the telecast today, you'll notice it looks like a 4x8 sheet of plywood. It is that strong down the track. And I'll tell you, on that back straightaway, the far straightaway, the best thing a young man could do today is to tuck himself in behind, let someone else lead and take the brunt of that wind, wait for the right moment, and then try to close the gap and win it on this near straightaway.
Which might have been exactly what Steve Faley did in the last race. It is between East St. Louis Lincoln and East St. Louis Senior. And it appears that East St. Louis Lincoln will emerge as the winner. East St. Louis Senior second, Wheaton North is third. Tim Shoup, the young man we talked about for Naperville Central.
Brought them from 7th to 4th, I believe.
Quite a move up. An unofficial time, Lee, on the scoreboard. 7:56.
62, I believe.
62, yes, sir. Class AA champion in the 3,200 meter relay, East St. Louis Lincoln. The finals of the Class A 400 meter relay are next. The lane assignments for you. Lane 1 will be Knoxville. Lane 2 is Herscher. Lane 3 is Lyle. Lane 4, Caro. Lane 5, Chicago's Providence St. Mel. Lane 6, Chicago's University High School. Lane 7, Arcola. Lane 8, Harrisburg. And Lane 9, Kewanee High School. And we've already alluded to the wind a couple of times today, Lee. And as an ex-coach, what kind of factor can that play in the success or lack thereof of an individual team in a meet like this?
Well, it's going to depend upon, of course, the strength of the runner and the event. In this relay in particular, we certainly don't want that outgoing runner in the first and second exchanges to run away from an incoming runner who's got to battle that high wind. We want to cut down the go distance, we call it, so that incoming runner certainly can catch the outgoing runner in those two exchanges.
Differences now in how a 3,200 meter race and a 400 meter relay race, the strategies involved, the differences.
Well, you know, I think there's a great deal of pressure in leading a race in any of the distance events or the distance relays, and I like to see a young man tuck himself in behind the leaders, let them take the pressure of the lead as well as battle the wind and conserve energy by doing so. Here, it's all out. I mean, you've got to battle the elements. Everyone in every lane does, and you take what comes and do the best you can.
Carroll, the school that we'll be focusing in on here.
They come into this with the fastest sectional qualifying time of 43.4. Chicago University next at 43.9, along with Knoxville and Mounds Meridian. The fastest qualifier out of the prelims yesterday was Chicago Providence St. Mel at 43.51. Caro was second at 43.54. You've got two teams, Caro and Chicago U High, that were in this final event a year ago. So I think we're going to see that the race is going to come from lanes 4, 5, and 6. But of course, at this level, we don't want to exclude anybody. Anything can happen. I would imagine we'll see Kerwin Lowe anchor for Caro and Chris Harper for Chicago University High. And I'm certain they're going to be right there at the finish, along with perhaps Theo Durham from Chicago Providence St. Mel. It's going to be a great race.
You got to look at our starter from Rantoul, William Anderson. A very important job, obviously.
Again, we had talked earlier about the team title, and of course in this particular event you've got Herscher, Caro, Chicago, Providence, St. Mel, Chicago, U-High, and Arcola, all teams of which we mentioned at the top of the telecast that have a shot at a trophy, if not winning the state title. So the hunt for the state championship perhaps gets a little bit tighter here right now.
Chicago's Providence St. Mel will certainly be heard from in this event. We are just about set for the start of the Class A 400-meter relay finals. Two superb races thus far, and if that's a sign of things to come, we're in for some terrific competition before this day is out.
On your mark.
Hear the wind whistling, blowing right now at the backs of the runners as they prepare to depart.
This is the 400-meter relay in Class A. On the lane, Providence St. Mel and Chicago University.
Out to a quick start, Kewanee.
Early leader, Herscher and Providence St. Mel.
Providence St. Mel has closed up on the stagger. They've got the lead through the second exchange.
Providence St. Mel in front. Final exchange. Providence St. Mel.
And look out, here comes Kerwin Lowe.
Kerwin Lowe picking him up and laying him down, as a famous horse announcer would say. And Caro is the winner, as Kerwin Lowe, well, we certainly spotlighted the right runner. He made up some ground in a hurry on that last leg of the 400-meter relay. The exchange also importantly, and here's Kerwin Lowe.
He gets the baton real early in the exchange zone, and when you've got an anchor man like that, you want him to have that baton as early as possible. Providence St. Mel was in the driver's seat, but Kerwin Lowe is one fine athlete. Just runs right on through the wire to win it. Unofficially at 43.77.
Kerwin Lowe of Caro, the winner of the Class A 400-meter relay final. The Class AA 400-meter relay finals and the lane assignments. In lane 1, Wheaton North. Lane 2, Olympia Fields, Rich Central. Lane 3, East St. Louis Lincoln. Number 4, Hillside Proviso West. Number 5, Decatur MacArthur. Number 6, East Moline United. Number 7, East St. Louis Senior. Number 8, Chicago St. Rita. And number 9, Evanston Township. We'll certainly be keeping an eye on Proviso West in lane 4 and MacArthur in lane 5.
Set. Double A.
It is even through the first exchange.
East St. Louis Senior making a strong push.
As is MacArthur. To Marcus Phillips. I felt at the top of the telecast he would be a key performer for them in their battle for the state title, and he is running a great leg into Eric Dabner. They will get the baton first, and they're out of the zone first. Oh my.
Terrific race. We highlighted MacArthur, and they did not disappoint. As was the case in the Class A 400-meter relay, this last exchange told the tale.
Well, Marcus Phillips ran a great leg. He ran the curve so well. You notice that the baton was given up very early in the exchange zone, and Dabner just ran away from the field. And I will have to admit I'm a bit surprised. I thought it might be a little bit closer than this. This could be foreshadowing of great things to come today for MacArthur.
Eric Dabner not challenged. And MacArthur is the Class AA 400-meter relay state champ. The broadcast rights to the 1992 IHSA Boys Track and Field Championships have been granted to Sports Channel by the Illinois High School Association. Any rebroadcast or other use of this program without the express written consent of Sports Channel and the IHSA is strictly prohibited. Our next event is the Class A 3,200-meter run. And in Alley 1, Jason Ziron, Pat Klimaszewski, Dave Venhaus. In Alley 2, Steve Faley, Brad Horton, and Chris Swinson, along with Zach King. Alley 3, Brad Kaufman, David McEvers, Chad Vaninger, and Ryan Meese. And in Alley 4, Rich Waldman, Nick Smith, Jeff Obert, Harvey Petrie, and Chris Kappel. Now, Lee, we've already seen the talents of one Steve Faley today, but he did not have the fastest sectional time coming into this event.
Well, no, I'm not certain that that'll make any difference. Jason Ziron had the fastest qualifying time out of the sectionals at 9:37.9. I tell you, this field is loaded, though, Brian. You've got 12 young men, for example, out of the 16 entered who ran and placed and ran well in last fall's state cross-country meet. You've got the defending champion back, Brad Kaufman from Tremont, and along with Brad, you've got 5 others who were in this event a year ago. So it is loaded. Tremendous depth in Class A distance events this year.
8 times around the track in this 3,200-meter run.
Not only did Kaufman win this event a year ago, he was the outdoor Class A state champion in cross country, and Jeff Obert of Liberty in this event today was second in the fall in cross country. So you've got just a great field.
There are your leaders early in this 3,200-meter run. About 2.5 laps remaining. Jason Ziron setting the pace as he has for much of this race, but followed closely by Brad Kaufman and Steve Faley.
There have been a number of lead changes throughout the first 6 laps here, and right at the halfway point, the 1,600-meter mark, we saw a separation in the field. About the top 8 runners in this field chose to make a move away from the rest of the pack. And Brad Kaufman, who you now see moving up on Ziron, moved into 4th and really moved into contention just on lap 5. He's really run a real smart, steady race. He's tucked himself in behind Ziron and really just waiting for the right moment to make a move, it appears.
As of right now, Steve Faley is falling back quite a bit.
He may, knowing he's got another race coming up a little bit later in the afternoon, he may be content to hang on to that 3rd spot for both himself and Wheaton St. Francis.
Right now, a pretty good distance between Faley in 3rd and David McEvers in 4th. There's the gun lap.
Well, they both look strong. I'll tell you, I had talked with a number of coaches prior to the finals today, and several said they felt Kaufman was the guy to beat. You know, as I said, he's defending champ in this event, the state champion in cross country Class A last fall, and he is right there with Jason Ziron, and it is too early to call. Neither one is ready to throw in the towel. It looks like Ziron might be pulling away at this point.
Jason Ziron, as we said, had the top performance insofar as a sectional time was concerned. And he is now spreading himself out quite a bit. It will take a pretty good kick from Brad Kaufman to make up any ground, and I don't think he's going to have time to do it.
I don't believe so. Jason Ziron has run just a fine race from start to finish. Being acknowledged for it by this huge crowd.
Jason Ziron pulling ahead, an easy winner.
Brad Kaufman will finish second. And it will indeed be Steve Faley who will finish third. Jason Zeron, the winner of the Class A 3,200 meter run in an unofficial time of 9:19.84. The Class AA 3,200 meter run has begun. In Alley 1, Chris Brown, Adam White, and Tim Breaux. In Alley 2, Tony Finley, Augustin Coronado, Marty St. Pierre. In Alley 3, Pat Joyce, Steve Watson, Chris Monty, and Steve Cunningham. And in Alley 4, Maha Martinez, Brett Siglin, Daniel Rooking, Scott Lidskin, and Steve Pye.
Well, just as the Class A field in the 3,200 meter run is loaded, so is this in AA. With the 16 entered, you've got 3 young men who were in this event and placed a year ago, and you've got 13 young men out of this heat of 16 that ran well in the state cross country meet last fall. I don't see John Weigel, as perhaps they've pulled him out so that he can concentrate on another event later today. But the field nevertheless is outstanding. I noticed at the first 200, Brian, nobody seemed to want to take charge. I know that nobody wants to go out front and battle that win for 7-8 laps. We may see a little game of cat and mouse for a lap or two until somebody takes charge.
It's Augustin Coronado with the early lead in the Class AA 3,200 meter run, but still anybody's race at this point in time. We are fast approaching the last lap of the AA 3,200 meter run. As you can see, a tight bunch of 4. And that's been pretty much the way it's been the entire race, Lee. There really hasn't been one definitive runner taking charge.
Well, it's been an unusual race. There have been a lot of rhythm and pace breaks. Maha Martinez tried to break it open after 2 laps and then slowed down nearly to a jog on the far side, I think, hoping someone would pass him and break the win. But we've got a heck of a race right now. Maha Martinez was second a year ago in this event. He's followed closely by Pat Joyce of Stevenson, who is the state champion in cross country last fall. It is up for grabs still.
Augustin Coronado is in third. Adam White falling back to fourth. Maha Martinez has led for much of this race, and he has the lead as they kick into the final lap, but Pat Joyce is making a pretty good charge. And Joyce now has overtaken Martinez, and Martinez will not catch him. The state champ in cross country last year emerges victorious in the Class AA 3,200 meter run. Pat Joyce. Maha Martinez finishing second.
I tell you, this race may have played right into the hands of Pat Joyce. There were so many breaks and rhythm and so many changes in the pace that Pat Joyce just controlled this from behind, and at the right moment was able to blow right on by Maha Martinez and win the state title.
As it turns out, by a fairly wide margin. Pat Joyce is your Class AA state champion in an unofficial time of 9:22.77. Now we have the unofficial standings through the 400 meter relays. Let's look at Class A first. Again, these are unofficial. A good time, Lee, probably to explain the scoring system here.
Well, in this meet, 8 places score. First place is given 10 points. Second scores 8. Third place is given 6. Fourth place 5. Fifth place scores 4 points. Sixth place is given 3. Seventh place 2, and eighth place scores 1 point.
That's Class A. We move on over now to AA. But you would still say this far too early to get any clear indication of what will happen at the finish.
Absolutely. When 10 points is scored for first place, a whole lot of things can change event by event.
East St. Louis Lincoln with the 4-point advantage right now. Back here in the press box at O'Brien Field, the campus of Eastern Illinois University, the 1992 IHSA Track and Field Championships. I'm with royalty here. Coaches galore. Lee Hallberg, of course, who has been handling the commentary all day long. And now our special guest is Gordon Thompson, who is the head boys track and field and cross-country coach at Loyola University. And Gordy, you are one of many college coaches that is on hand to see this event. What can you pick up as a college coach from watching a state meet such as this one?
Well, Illinois' state meet is just entrenched with tradition for as far as Olympians. There's from Willie May, Brian Oldfield in the shot put, Mike Connolly in the jumps. There's 4 or 5 1984 Olympians that have come through this meet in the past. In 1988, Mark Deedy was an Olympian in 1,500 meters. And probably you're looking right ahead of us are some future Olympians as well. Talent's there, a lot of great coaches in the state of Illinois as far as the scholastic level, and they make our jobs at the collegiate level a hell of a lot easier.
Lee, as a coach of 16 years of this sport, I'm sure you can certainly relate to Gordy Thompson as to what a coach would be here for, and all the great coaches across the nation that are here.
Gordon, I do have a question, but we need to go right back to this 110-meter Class A high hurdle race.
In lane 1, we have Mike Freeze. Lane 2 is Clint Connor. Lane 3, Kent Schaefer. Lane 4, Mike Nicholas. Lane 5 is Stuart Russell. Lane 6, Dennis Staggs. Lane 7, Sean Seeney. Lane 8, Darnell Burton. And lane 9, John Lewis. The Class A 110-meter high hurdles.
Set.
Mike Nicholas from Chicago Christian picks up the victory in the Class A 110-meter high hurdles.
Mike Nicholas looked good yesterday throughout the prelims. He came into this event with the third fastest qualifying time. Stuart Russell from Herscher was the fastest qualifier. It appears unofficially he may have been second. Let's take a look. Both Nicholas and Russell get out to a great start. And once you get out in front, you can run unobstructed in this event. They're not banging arms. And at that point, it's a two-man race. But Nicholas just a little quicker in between, and the winner.
Pretty close for second. But Mike Nicholas is the Class A state champion in an unofficial time of 13.49. And Lee, you had a question for Gordy.
What kinds of things are you looking for in your recruits? The senior high school student athlete, what kinds of things are you looking for? What do you tell him?
Well, there's right here at the Illinois State meet, there's talent on 2 levels. There's the developed talent that the coaches have already developed, the very fine, excellent form, good technique all the way through, and refined skills. And then there's the intangibles that we're looking at as far as young men that have a whole lot of competitive savvy, that are just something that maybe you can't measure with a stopwatch. You can't determine that from a tape measure, but you can see it in their eyes, you can see it in their heart when they compete on the track.
Well, as we talked, Darryl McDonald from Edwardsville just went for another state record in the vault and missed it at that attempt. Gordon, the NCAA hasn't been the best of friends for track and field in this country at the collegiate level. What do you see down the road? What kind of future is there in track and field in this country?
Track has got a great future. I'm looking down at the stands. The stands are packed with people. It is an incredible arena for athletes with a wide range of abilities. You got people that could compete in football in the throws and sprints and hurdles. You got people that can compete in soccer, that can come out and run long distance. You got people that could do the great gymnastic ability right there in the pole vault, in the high jump, and the long jump. It's something for everyone. It's the oldest of sports, dating back to the ancient Olympic Games, and it will probably be the oldest of sports as far as its longevity goes as well. It's very pure.
Gordon, thank you very much. We're ready for the finals of the Class AA 110-meter high hurdles.
Thanks, Lee.
In lane 1 is Adrian Dunbar. Lane 2, John Cozy. Lane 3 is Mike Williams. Lane 4, Mark Miley. Lane 5 is Marcus Phillips. Lane 6, Marcus Ivy. Lane 7, Terrellus Griffin. Lane 8, Michael White. And lane 9, William Lash. The Class AA 110-meter high hurdles. Our thanks again to Gordon Thompson, the head boys cross country and track coach at Loyola University in Chicago.
Mike Williams from Chicago assignment is the lone returnee. He was 7th a year ago in this event. Marcus Phillips, the fastest qualifier at 14:35 yesterday in the semifinals.
Again, we look for the battle in the middle.
It's a key event. If Marcus Phillips can win or do well, it's going to really boost MacArthur's chances for the state title, and he is out in front.
Marcus Phillips will hold on.
The winner.
Terrific race, Marcus Phillips. So MacArthur with another team victory. Marcus Phillips the individual victory in the Class AA 110-meter high hurdles.
Phillips gets out and clears the first hurdle so cleanly, and he's so efficient, very compact. His arms aren't wide. He's so smooth over the hurdle, and he's just the quickest in between. But he's got room to run now, and he can just run with that reckless abandon you like to see a state champion run with at this point. Right on through the wire.
Close on the outside for second and third. But Phillips down the middle didn't miss a stride. Marcus Phillips, your winner in the Class AA 110-meter high hurdles, an unofficial time of 14.01. Well, the sun has decided to make an appearance here at O'Brien Field, the wind remaining steady, and we have two tremendous races upcoming. The Class A 100-meter dash is up first. Here are your lane assignments. In lane 1, Theo Durham. Lane 2 is Kerwin Lowe. Lane 3, Brian Schwartz. Lane 4, Jubal Alvis. Lane 5, Chris Harper. Lane 6, Tim Edwards. Lane 7, Sean Margram. Lane 8, Jay Wingfield. And lane 9, Mike Smith. And again, right in the middle, Lee, we could see quite a battle.
Well, I was looking forward to this race. I think it's going to be a great one. You've got Chris Harper in lane 5, who's the fastest qualifier out of the semifinals. In 4, Jabal Alvis from DuQuoin at 10:48 yesterday. You've got two young men who were in the finals of this event last year. Kerwin Lowe, who is in lane 2, was second a year ago. And then, of course, Harper, who is in 5 and the fastest qualifier this year, was third in 1991.
Quiet, please. The 100-meter dash in Class A.
The 100-meter dash in Class A just about to get started.
On your mark.
That's a clean start. Harper seemed to stumble in his first or second step, but it certainly hasn't hindered him. However, Tim Edwards just outside is going to challenge him.
Boy, that's a tight battle.
Officially, it looks like Harper. Tim Edwards from Chicago Luther South, second.
Chris Harper had to give it everything he had to hold off Tim Edwards.
Harper is so strong and so powerful, not the prettiest of starts, but once he gets into good running position, he demonstrates good technique, good form. But here comes Edwards closing up, moves up on the outside shoulder. And at the wire, it is a photo. We may have to wait to see what the photo shows.
That is hard to separate. Unofficially, the Word we have up here in the booth is that Tim Edwards from Chicago Luther South may have edged out Chris Harper. This one could require some further study.
We've got an excellent view. The rule book says that some part of the body other than the head, neck, or arms must cross that finish line.
Another angle here.
I would say Harper won. Harper won it.
Well, you can't get much closer than that. Chris Harper and Tim Edwards at the finish line almost simultaneously in the Class A 100-meter dash. Now we have the Class AA 100-meter dash. Watch again in the middle, lanes 4 and 5. Lane 4 is Kerwin Beatty from Proviso West, and lane 5 is Eric Dabner from MacArthur.
Double A underway.
Well, it is a clean start, and Beatty is out. At the halfway point, it is Beatty. Dabner and Bryant from Waukegan. It is Beatty.
Kerwin Beatty, the all-everything talent from Proviso West. As good as they come.
Well, he is the franchise, there's no doubt about it. I tell you, their title hopes certainly were dashed when they were disqualified in the 400-meter relay. And I really wasn't certain, as well as Dabner ran the anchor leg for MacArthur. I knew this race was in question, but
Kerwin Beatty, the defending AA champ. Eric Dabner, the defending Class A champ from a year ago.
Beatty headed for Wisconsin to play football. Will also run track there. Perhaps
Kerwin Beatty, the winner of the Class AA 100-meter dash, the unofficial time of 10.42. And we'll be back with more of the IHSA Class A and AA Boys Track and Field Championships after this. Welcome back to the 1992 Boys Track and Field State Championships. We now move to the field events portion of our coverage, and first to the guys who use the implements. First to the shot put competition. In Class A, the top three finishers are Jeff Hediger from Tuscola, Liam Cormier from Girard, and Dirk Handlin from Mahomet Seymour, the 1992 Class A state champ in the shot put at 58 feet 3/4 inch. Congratulations to Dirk Handlin. In AA, things went like this. In third place, Lucien Scott from East St. Louis Lincoln. Second place went to Keith Lozowski from Palatine Friend. And Leo Perez from Buffalo Grove, the 1992 Class AA champion in this year's shot put competition at 58 feet 1 3/4 inch. In the discus, the three best in Class A are Matt Dutton of Alexis. Second place goes to Mike Maddox from Girard. And once again, Dirk Handlin from Mahomet Seymour, this time the 1992 Class A champion in the discus competition at 164 feet 2 inches. And now, once again, the winning form of Dirk Handlin. In AA, here's how they finished. Third place goes to Brent Fisher of Rock Island. Second place to Larry Curry of Granite City. And Bolingbrook's Darnell Carter wins the Class AA Discus Championship at 164 feet 3 inches. Darnell showing us his winning form. Congratulations, guys, and on we go to the long jump competition. The results in Class A have Brian Hoffick of Williamsville finishing third, Brent Shreves of Knoxville in second place, and the 1992 Class A long jump state champ is John Lewis from Carroll at 22 feet 11 1/4 inch. Now in AA, here's how they finished. Third place goes to Eric Bordeaux from Streamwood. Finishing second is Jonathan Jordan from Chicago Heights Bloom. And Reginald Torian from South Holland Thornwood wins the Class AA long jump for 92 at 23 feet 7 1/2 inches. In the triple jump competition in Class A, Dan Cokes of Hinckley Big Rock finishes third. In second place is Tyrone Nesby from Carroll. And the 1992 Class A triple jump champion bringing home his second title, John Lewis, also from Carroll, at 45 feet 10 1/2 inches. In AA, third place goes to Antonio Cooper from Dalton Thornridge. Jonathan Jordan from Chicago Heights Bloom finishes second. And Adam Hodges from Decatur Eisenhower is the 1992 Class AA state champ in the triple jump with a mark of 50 feet 3 1/2 inches. Congratulations to Adam Hodges, and on to the high jump. The Class A results have Matt Malich from Lyle Sr. in third place, Kevin Sullivan from Dunlap in second, and the Class A high jump champion for 1992 is Brent Wright from Herscher at 6 feet 6 inches. Brent Wright from Herscher winning in Class A, and the AA winners are Tyrone Aiken from Aurora East in third place. Second place to Richard Crothers from Oak Forest. And the state champion in AA high jump competition is Chris Martin from St. Charles, 6 feet 11 inches. Chris Martin, your state champ in AA. And now they soar even higher as we move on to the pole vault competition. In Class A, here's how they finished. Bill Herbert of Braidwood Reed Custer takes third place. Chris Spencer of Maple Park Canelan wins second place. And Ben Williams from Mahomet Seymour is the 1992 state champion in the Class A pole vault competition at 14 feet even. Ben Williams, the Class A champ. In AA, Nathan Plager of Rockford East finishes in third place. Second place goes to Kyle Barton of Marion. And the 1992 Class AA pole vault champ is Darian McDonough of Edwardsville Senior High School at 17 feet 1/2 inch, a new state record. Incredible form by Darian McDonough, the Class AA champ. And our congratulations to all of this year's state finalists in the field events competition. We have more excitement coming your way, so stay tuned. The 1992 IHSA Track and Field State Championships return. The IHSA Boys Track and Field Championships continue from Eastern Illinois' O'Brien Stadium in Charleston. Brian Wheeler along with Lee Hallberg. The 800-meter run. Class A competition ahead. Alley 1 will feature Jacob Parker, Mike McBride, and Curtis Weiss. In Alley 2, Jay Weissman, Dempsey Farr, Jared Reynolds. In Alley 3, Joel Crawford, Derek Short, and James Personaire. And in Alley 4, Matt Hitchings, Mark Michaels, and Don Gramer. This is the Class A 800-meter run.
Jared Reynolds from Morrison is the only returnee in this event. He was 8th a year ago. The fastest qualifier out of yesterday's prelims was Jacob Parker. He ran 157.16 in the qualifying heats.
Runner set.
The 800-meter run. Pretty good pace being set at the start.
It is. Most of the runners will come through the first curve in about 15 to 16 seconds flat. And again, position is the most important thing. What you want to try to do is avoid being boxed at that break line. And generally speaking, if the entire field will move in gradually, then everybody has plenty of room to run and has an opportunity to perform at maximum level.
You still think at this point, looking at the flags, that the wind continues to be a bit of a factor?
Well, it is certainly in the distance events. And again here, somebody who's running back of the leaders here is probably running in the best position through at least 600 meters in this race. Gerald Reynolds leading.
Jacob Parker running second right now.
I think it would be a mistake at this point, Brian, to really force the pace. The pace is fine right now. You've got to battle the wind. You've got to race. Everybody is still in the hunt. The best thing to do is to bide time and wait till you start to feel that wind. You want a position at this point. You want to make certain you are in a position when you have that opportunity off the curve to go for the finish. And it is still up for grabs with 150 meters to go. Obviously, Parker's in the best position as they come off the curve. Oh, we have... One man fell.
Jacob Parker, it appears, is going to sprint out and distance himself from the rest of the pack. Jacob Parker from Mounds Meridian.
Well, he was the fastest qualifier yesterday in 157.16.
Just a little slower than that here today. Jacob Parker, the winner in the Class A 800-meter run, an unofficial time of 157.16. The Class AA 800-meter run awaits. In Alley 1, Chris Ellis, Jason Semsrott, and Scott Lipsky. In Alley 2, Jose De Leon, Jason Fry, Mike Kopecki. And in Alley 3, John Brown, Josh Daly, and Nick Haid. Alley 4 features Dave Zariah, Brian Woodard, and Pat Gorman.
Well, Chris Elliott just blew this thing wide open, ran through the first turn maybe a little bit more quickly than I would have liked to have seen had he been one of my athletes. Nevertheless, he is the top returnee in this event. He was 5th a year ago and the fastest qualifier, 154.82. I'm sure at this point in the season he's knows what he's doing, very comfortable with that, but he has given himself plenty of running room and some distance.
We'll have to watch Jose De Leon a little bit from Bloom High School. He's the only athlete in this meet to qualify for the finals in both the 800 and 1600 meter runs.
Well, the opening quarter was right at 52, so they really took it out, and we could see the survivors at the finish. We'll have to see whether or not that early quick pace will take its toll on Chris Ellis.
That's a sure way to either burn yourself out or really separate the pack.
Well, you notice it did certainly spread the field out in a hurry, but they've come back a little bit to the leader, and it's still anybody's race with 200 meters to go.
John Brown is in second. Jason Semsrott is in third. But Chris Ellis is still the man to catch. Can John Brown do it? Ellis looking back. Does he have enough left? It sure appears so.
I think he does.
From start to finish. From Chicago Vocational, Chris Ellis. A nice time of 1:55.36 unofficially for Chris Ellis. He is your Class AA 800-meter run state champ. The Class A 800-meter relay finals, our next event, as we continue with the 1992 IHSA Boys Track and Field Championships. In Lane 1 will be Robinson High School, Lane 2 Madison, Lane 3 Arcola, Lane 4 is Knoxville, Lane 5 is Lamont, Lane 6 Chicago U-High, Lane 7 is Cairo, Lane 8 Herscher, and Lane 9 is St. Joe's Ogden.
Lamont was the fastest qualifier in yesterday's prelims at 1:32.09. Chicago University will be on the outside of them in lane 6. They qualified in 1:32.38, and in lane 7, the team that was second here a year ago is the third fastest qualifier in 1:33.10. The top sectional performances turned in were by a team from Knoxville at 1:31.5, and it's I'm starting to sense that Cairo is in the driver's seat for the team championship. They seem to just be real solid throughout the meet. They're scoring high in everything they're in, and I would think that with a fine high finish in this race, they could solidify their chances to win this Class A state title.
Now, Lee, let me ask you, after the 400-meter relays that we saw earlier, a couple of schools were disqualified, and a lot of people may not know in a relay event what are some offenses that could cause a school to be disqualified. What are some of the things that you have to adhere to make sure you're doing everything properly?
Well, the very basics. This is an event that's run in lanes entirely, and on the turn, a young man has got to stay outside the inside white line on his left. He cannot run 3 or more consecutive strides on that line, or he would be disqualified. The second most obvious, perhaps, is that the baton, when it is passed, has to be in the zone itself. Not the runners, but the baton. And I would say, if I had a team that had a shot at winning the state championship right now, I would say play the exchanges safe, fellas. Do your running after you've made the pass.
On your mark.
Let's don't do anything to self-destruct and lose this.
About set now for the Class A 800-meter relay finals. As you can see, they're starting from the opposite end of the track.
Set. Everybody up, gentlemen. Misfire.
The gun is misfired. We haven't had a false start, haven't had any miscues today, so I'm sure we are entitled to one, if not more, but starter will recall the leadoff men. I think we're probably ready again.
On your mark.
As most IHSA events are, this one has run very smoothly. We'll give it a second try.
There are literally hundreds of volunteers that make this just a huge success every year, Brian.
Set.
It will be tough to determine the leader for a while until the staggers have been made up on the final turn. But we'll try to call it for you. It is even through the first 150 meters of this first leg. Herscher possibly in lane 8 with an early lead. At the first exchange at Chicago University and Herscher. University in lane 6 with the early lead. Herscher is still running well in lane 8. Another team we mentioned at the top of the telecast that would be in the hunt for a trophy. It is Herscher at the first exchange. St. Joe Ogden in 9 running right there with them. But now we see Lamont, Cairo, and Chicago University starting to close the stagger down, along with Knoxville.
Getting ready for that last exchange. What a terrific race Herscher
It is Herscher. It is Herscher. bet we've got Chris Harper on the anchor for Chicago University High, and here they come. It is even as the staggers even up. It is Chicago U High and Herscher.
And again, Harper going to pull away for Chicago U High. Herscher set a tremendous pace, but it's Chicago U High in lane 6, one of the pre-race favorites, that emerges victorious. Up until this last exchange, Lee, it appeared that Herscher might be able to be a start-to-finish winner.
Well, I would imagine that the coach is realizing that Chicago U High had a great anchorman. They may have wanted to try to steal this race by changing the order and running their top individuals a little bit sooner in the order. But certainly, Chris Harper and the team from Chicago U High was not to be denied. He's so smooth, so efficient, and ran his curve extremely well. He's on cruise control right on through the finish.
Herscher does hold on for second, and there is your Class A state champion as Chicago U High wins it, an unofficial time of 1:31.17. Coming up, the finals of the Class AA 800-meter relay in lane 1, East Moline United. Lane 2 will feature East St. Louis Senior. Lane 3, Decatur Eisenhower. Lane 4, Hillside Proviso West. Lane 5, Decatur MacArthur. Lane 6, Evanston Township. Lane 7, Olympia Fields Rich Central. Lane 8 is Streamwood. And lane 9, Dalton Thornridge. And another important race for MacArthur, Lee, I would say.
Well, I think we're going to have a real clear picture as to who's in the driver's seat for the state title after this event. You've got Evanston won this event a year ago. Proviso West was second a year ago, and East St. Louis Senior was fifth. So you've got some young men in this race who were here a year ago. Fastest qualifier was Decatur MacArthur out of the prelims yesterday at 1:27.91, followed by Proviso West at 1:27.92. It should be a barn burner.
Starter is just about set.
We have got in this field the top 5 or 6 teams that, in my opinion, have a shot at a trophy. So we should get a clear picture of how that race is developing.
The race is getting down to a precious few at this point. For the battle in lanes 4 and 5 between Hillside Proviso West and Decatur MacArthur.
Dalton Thornridge in 9 appears to be the early leader, but it is even throughout lanes 1 through 8 through the first exchange. MacArthur, however, and Proviso West in the middle of the track. It is MacArthur. It is Evanston just outside in lane 6, running well also at this point. East St. Louis Senior in 2 has moved up now. And at the exchange, it is even between MacArthur, Proviso West, and Senior. Olympia Fields Rich Central also now in the outside in lane 7. But it is MacArthur challenging for the lead. Proviso West now challenging inside with Senior in 2. It is even.
5 schools at least that can challenge in this final leg.
Here we go again. It is Dabner from MacArthur. You've got the franchise from Proviso West, Kerwin Beatty. And the state title homes for MacArthur. Definitely going to be enhanced by this finish. But Kerwin Beatty leading Proviso West and possibly pulling up lane.
Kerwin Beatty, it indeed appears, pulled up lame there.
That race significant in the standings AA at this time. These results do not include the race you just saw.
Beatty now provides the victory for Proviso West. This is a young man who had some problems with a hamstring injury a month ago.
Well, he has had rest throughout the season due to the fact that he has been hurt, but I talked to his coach yesterday. They felt he was ready, and he looked great, of course, through the prelims. We'll hope that he hasn't re-injured that hamstring.
The key to any good relay race, good exchanges, and there were a few bad ones in this one.
Another one thing a young man has got to do with his partner, you've got to concentrate on the race in your lane. You've got to stay focused, and oftentimes in the heat of the battle, you start to listen, you start to look through your peripheral vision to see what's happening outside and inside of you. You just can't do it. You've got to concentrate on your exchange.
Do we see any point now where Beatty pulls up lame here? It appeared he hit the finish line without any problems.
I believe he did. I think he got through the finish line and then started to pull up.
But not before Hillside Proviso West earns the state championship in the AA 800-meter relay in an unofficial time of 1:27.68. Just ahead, the Class A 400-meter dash. And your lane assignments as follows. In lane 1, Jason Leetzen from Lena Winslow. Lane 2, Chuck Van Drunen from Lansing Ileana Christian. Lane 3, Chad Lakatos from Harrisburg. Lane 4, Kirsten McAfee from Pawnee. Lane 5, Jubal Alvis from DuQuoin. Lane 6, Theo Durham from Chicago's Providence St. Mel. Lane 7, Dylan Cooper from Villa Grove. Lane 8, Sean Sini of Robinson. And Lane 9, Joe Company of Leroy. And again, we look for the big test right in the middle, lanes 4 and 5.
Fastest qualifier, Brian, out of the prelims yesterday was Jubal Alvis from DuQuoin. He ran 49.97. But I'll tell you, this has the makings of a great race. You've got 3 of the top 4 finishers. The return from last year's 400-meter dash. You've got Kirsten McAfee in 4, the defending state champ. Inside of him in 3 from Harrisburg, you've got Chad Lakatos, who was 2nd a year ago. And then in lane 1, Jason Leetzen from Lena Winslow, who was 4th. So I think it's safe to say we're going to have a great race here. Look for McAfee in 4.
On your mark.
Early pace set by Joe Company.
Jubal Alvis really taking it out. He may have the early lead in lane 5. Chad Lakatos from Harrisburg also as they approach the 200-meter point. It is fairly even between Alvis and Lakatos. Now McAfee starting to move also in lane 4. I have seen McAfee run a number of times this year and throughout his career. He is so strong, and I am certain he will give it everything he's got in his final 50 meters. Here he comes. You've got Lakatos, though, challenging on the inside in 3, but it's McAfee holding on.
Kirsten McAfee. Chad Lakatos falls at the finish. He gave it everything he had to try to get up there for 2nd or 3rd. It appeared that he did finish 3rd, but Kirsten McAfee of Pawnee, number 85 in your picture there, is the winner of the Class A 400-meter dash. And McAfee turning it on right after the 200-meter point.
Well, he's so efficient. He really ran this race textbook perfectly. He's going to have an opportunity to win this event 3 years in a row.
2 consecutive years, McAfee takes the state title in the Class A 400-meter dash, an unofficial time of 49.35. Moments away from the Class AA 400-meter dash finals, but first let's take a look at the unofficial team standings through 11 events. First of all, on the Class A side, pretty good lead for Carroll. But on the AA side, MacArthur, we told you, was in pretty good shape and ahead by 9 after 11 events. This is event number 18. And in lane 1 will be Alonzo McCoy from East St. Louis Senior. Lane 2, Omari Banner from East St. Louis Lincoln. Lane 3, Gerald Massengill from Darien Hinsdale South. Lane 4, Ben Byers from Champaign Centennial. Lane 5, Phil Bryan from Waukegan. Lane 6, Tyron Wilson of Peoria Manual. Lane 7, Mike Lee of Chicago St. Ignatius. Lane 8, Camera Tucker, also of East St. Louis Senior. And lane 9, Wallace Sullivan from West Chicago High School. And a lot of orange in this race, but two young men we'll be taking a close look at are not in orange. Phil Bryan of Waukegan, probably the favorite.
This race returns 3 young men from last year's final on the 400-meter dash. You've got Phil Bryan in lane 5. Ben Byers on the inside of him in lane 4 was second a year ago, and in lane 8, Camara Tucker from East St. Louis Senior was 4th. So we've got 3 returnees. The fastest qualifier out of yesterday's prelims was Bryan from Waukegan in 48.66, and Byers was second at 48.90. Again, a pivotal race for both East St. Louis Senior and Lincoln as far as the team scoring is concerned. MacArthur has no entry in this event, so both schools have an opportunity to move up in the team standings with their finishes in this event.
In fact, the next event on the AA side, the 300 intermediate hurdles, will be MacArthur's last event of the day, so definitely a chance to make some hay for the AA teams trying to catch MacArthur at this point in time.
Set. That is a fair start. We'll try to call it for you. It looks like Phil Bryan from Waukegan out very, very quickly. Through 100 meters, even the leader at this point. You got Omari Banner in lane 2 as well. Both Banner and Bryan with the lead at the 200-meter point at 23.5. Still evenly bunched. We'll see as the stagger is made up. And it is Bryan with 100 meters to go. You've got Byers on the inside now taking the lead with 70 meters to go. It is Ben Byers of Champaign Centennial. Phil Bryan. And Omari Banner unofficially in 3rd.
Ben Byers right around that final turn making his move and winning the race in comfortable fashion. So finishing 2nd last year, Byers takes home the grand prize this year, and he did it with this strong last kick.
Well, he was in a great position. He could see Bryan all the way and gauge his effort, his performance on the basis of Bryan's race and position. His time to finish well, looks extremely efficient. Maintains a running form right on through the finish line. There's a tendency to tie up at this point. He just maintains his form and smoothness.
2 runners we highlighted up top did not disappoint, but it is Ben Byers who is your state champ in an unofficial time of 47.50. We're not too far away from the Class A 300 intermediate hurdles, but we'd also like to tell you that there's more high school state championship excitement coming your way, and it sure is coming in a big way on Saturday, June 13th. Sports Channel's coverage gets underway at noon with the Girls State Soccer Championship, and then it's on to softball, the Class A Championship starting at 2 p.m., followed by the AA Final at 4 p.m., and at 7 p.m. we'll have the Class A Baseball Championship. And our championship weekend will be capped off with the AA baseball final on Sunday, June 14th at 7 p.m. There is little doubt Sports Channel is your station for state high school championship excitement. And don't miss the big finales on June 13th and 14th. The 300 intermediate hurdles, Class A competition first. Lane 1. Mike Nicholas, who won the high hurdles competition earlier from Palos Heights Chicago Christian. Keith Gardner in lane 2 from Maple Park Canelan. Lane 3 occupied by Mike Fries from Forreston. Lane 4, Scott Hicks from Prophetstown. Lane 5, Ryan McLean from Auburn. Lane 6, Kent Schaefer from Newton. Lane 7, Stuart Russell from Herscher. Lane 8, Eric Farrell from Kewanee. And Lane 9, Mark Monahan from Arcola.
Now they're even at the second hurdle. The entire field is even. Ryan McLean was the fastest qualifier out of the prelims yesterday at 39.27. But they are even at the fourth hurdle as they come off the curve. It is on the inside, it looks like Scott Hicks of Prophetstown. It is Scott Hicks from Prophetstown. Well, the key is to clear this last barrier smoothly. And he did. Scott Hicks of Prophetstown.
Scott Hicks with no problem with that last hurdle. In fact, no one had a problem with that last hurdle. And so Hicks, who was winning for a good portion of the race, holds on at the finish.
Scott was the number 2 qualifier out of the prelims yesterday, and at about the fourth hurdle, he started to move out in front and take charge. You've got to concentrate as fatigue starts to set in. He really bangs that hurdle, but he stays on his feet and runs right through it. And this last hurdle sometimes can be the nemesis, but he clears it smoothly with 8 meters after, runs on to win it.
Scott Hicks, your Class A state champ from Prophetstown, in an unofficial time of 39.50. The Class AA 300 intermediate hurdles, fast approaching. Lane 1, Gary Fowler from Summit. Lane 2, Dan Halstead from Orland Park Sandburg. Lane 3, Kendall Strickland from Glenview Glenbrook South. Lane 4, Carlton Clark, the defending champ from Olympia Fields Rich Central. Lane 5, Marcus Phillips from Decatur MacArthur. Lane 6, Mark Miley from Alton Senior. Lane 7, Frank Petaway from Wheaton North. Lane 8, Dave Ness from Skokie Niles North. And Lane 9, Eric Collier from Dixon.
3 young men returned from last year's state meet. Carlton Clark is defending state champion in this event. In lane 4, Kendall Strickland was 4th. He's in lane 3. Marcus Phillips was 9th a year ago. He's this year's high hurdle champ, and at 4 hurdles, at 5th hurdle, he is right even with the leaders. With 2 hurdles to go, it is Marcus Phillips from Decatur MacArthur. And he is running with a mission in the winner, which may have sealed MacArthur's chances for that state title. It's an outstanding race.
A very key win for Marcus Phillips individually and for his team point-wise, Decatur MacArthur. This is their last event, and Phillips made sure they would go out with the largest amount of points.
Well, he ran a real clean race. I don't think he banged any of the hurdles. He was, as I said, 9th a year ago, from 9 to 1. And I'll tell you, what a key win for not only Marcus Phillips, a senior from Decatur MacArthur, but their team as well.
Great testament to improvement in the offseason from 9th to 1st, your state champ, Marcus Phillips of MacArthur, unofficial time of 37.80. The Class A 1,600 meter run is our next event. In Alley 1, Brad Kaufman from Tremont, Joe Alexander from Clinton, and Colby Linneman from Breeze Mater Dei. Alley 2, Jason Ziron, who won the 3,200 meters from Carmi, Brian Allen from St. Joe's Ogden, Ryan Meese from Coal City. Alley 3 features Steve Faley from Wheaton St. Francis, Barry Pierman from Georgetown Ridge Farm, and Kevin Egan from Normal University High. And in Alley 4, John Jess from Arthur, Pat Klimaszewski from Depew and Troy Walker out of Herscher.
Fastest qualifier out of yesterday's prelims was Brad Kaufman from Tremont. He ran 4:24.92. You've got, in this field, you've got 5 young men who ran this event a year ago. The highest place winner last year was Barry Pearman, who finished second from Georgetown Ridge Farm. Joe Alexander was third a year ago. Colby Linneman, 6th. Steve Faley was 7th, and Pat Klimaszewski was 10th.
How about someone like a Jason Ziron, who won the 3,200 meters? Now he's going half the distance in this. How does his strategy differ?
Well, you know, he's got to be pumped up. He's excited. No matter what he does here, he's still a state champion in something, and I'm sure he's still on a high, and he's going to give it a good shot. And he knows what it's like. He's probably running now with more confidence than ever before because of that win earlier. And you notice on that back side, it seems as though the pace even visibly slows, as if no one wants to take charge and try to battle that win. I can't blame them. But on the other hand, that broken rhythm may affect some of the runners, and this slower pace may play right into the hands of that middle distance type miler, the one that can drop down and run a quarter or has real good basic leg speed.
Other than the wind, it has turned out to be a terrific day weather-wise here at Eastern Illinois. Certainly started out very ominous looking, but the sun has been out for some time and most of the clouds have dissipated, and we are getting to the truly exciting part of this 1,600 meter run in Class A.
Well, they came through the halfway point in about 2:17. Steve Faley took the lead right there, as you see, at the 800 meter mark, but still up for grabs. Not been much separation. Barry Pearman moving on the outside, trying to position. But again, we start to see a tightening, if you will, of the pack. And at that point, you want to make certain you preserve your own running space and ground. You've seen young men knocked down, stepped on, and you want to be very, very cautious, not take yourself out of an opportunity to run in this great race.
There are some runners in this race that have distinguished themselves very nicely in earlier races today. Brad Kaufman being one, Jason Ziron, as we said, already a state champ in the 3,200 meters. Steve Faley, of course, helped Wheaton St. Francis win the first event of the day. And Pat Klimaszewski has also run well today.
Well, as we head into the gun lap, we start to see the pace quicken. You know, Steve Faley, this is 3rd event today and 4th of the meet. You've got to wonder whether or not he's got anything left to withstand this challenge in the final lap. John Jess has taken over, but it is still too early to call it.
In the last race he ran, we theorized that maybe Faley was storing things up for his last try and would be content with a 3rd place finish, which he got earlier.
No, he just made a great move to avoid being boxed, and I think he's going to try to steal it right now, knowing that there may be some fresh legs in this race behind him. He probably wants to see if he can put it away early, but I don't think it's over yet. John Jess has accepted the challenge.
2-horse race right now. Faley has got the lead and is trying to hang on, but Jess is making it difficult. Faley is going to have enough left, so he helps his team win the first event he runs today, and he personally accounts for a victory in the last event he runs.
What a great meet for that young man. I'll tell you, Jess might have tried to move too early off the final curve, was spending too much energy. Faley waited, he waited, and then came back and won it in the final 40 meters.
You said it, Lee, that Steve Faley made the move right about here.
Well, just prior to this spot, Faley made a move that helped him avoid being boxed. But I think at this point, he made a decision. I'm going to try to run for the state title right now. And he left the field. Now, he may have taken Jess a little bit by surprise. Jess came back, passed him with 90 meters, but had spent too much energy in doing so.
Faley looking back a couple of times just to be sure. And then the slight grin comes over his face as he knows that he has emerged victorious, the state champ in the Class A 1,600 meter run in an unofficial time of 4:25.32. The Finals now of the Class AA 1600 meter run. We'll set the lane assignments for you. In Alley 1, John Weigel of Metamora, Mike Zimmerman-Smadris of Bradley Bourbonnais, and Solomon Woods of Schaumburg. Alley 2, Steve Watson of Heron, John Kendall of Naperville North, Tom Boyd of Villa Park Willowbrook. In Alley 3, Pat Joyce of Lincolnshire Stevenson, Scott Anderson of Chicago Young, Chris Peters of Lyle Bennett. And in Alley 4, Jose De Leon of Chicago Heights Bloom, David Dietz of Rockford Guilford, and Elliot Knott of Normal Community High School. And just as was the case in the Class A 1600 meter run, we've got some runners in this race that have already done well in other races today.
Well, we do. You know, and something that we noted earlier at the beginning of the 3200 meter, Ron Weigel had pulled out. So he's fresh. He's running on fresh legs. There may be some young men in this heat that aren't as fresh, but he's taken it out early with Steve Watson. Watson from Heron, a senior bound for Illinois State University next year. Opened up a lead of about 3 yards.
Steve Watson of Heron challenging John Weigel, with still lots of time left in this one.
There are 3 young men in this race who ran in it a year ago. You've got Jose De Leon, who was 7th. Scott Anderson from Chicago Young was 8th a year ago, and Steve Watson from Heron was 10th. So the field returns a fine group. The fastest qualifier was Weigel yesterday in 4:16.78, which was particularly impressive because the wind was so vicious. And the second fastest qualifier was Watson at 4:19, and they're running again in those respective positions at the halfway point. It's 2:07, and they have taken it out well. Right now we've got 2 out front and everybody else bunched up behind for the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and so on spots.
We interviewed Gordon Thompson, the head track and cross country coach at Loyola University, and he will be welcoming Jose De Leon to his program next season.
Well, he's a very versatile young man, capable of running any number of distance events. I'm not certain what he'll attempt to run or specialize in for them, but he certainly is going to be a great asset for their program.
Not much has changed. It's still John Weigel and Steve Watson. We're not far away from the gun lap here.
Well, I would imagine that if anybody in that second pack is going to make an attempt to get in this race, they're going to do it on this straightaway when they've got the wind at their back. If not, they're going to run for 2nd and 3rd and let these 2 young men, John Weigel and Steve Watson, battle for the state title. And I'll tell you, Watson looks awfully good and awfully comfortable. He's let Weigel take the pressure of the lead for 3+ laps, and he's been able to tuck himself in behind and let Weigel battle the win. But they both look strong.
It doesn't appear there will be a serious challenger to these 2, although there is a movement being made.
I am not, yes. Scott Young, Solomon Woods hanging on in 4th. But now Watson is taking the lead with 200 meters to go.
He has made his move. Now it's up to Weigel to catch him.
It appeared as if he tried to do it and take Weigel by surprise, and he may have. Although Weigel is battling, it looks like Watson's going to run away with it.
Watson turning it on. He will win easily. Boy, he paced that race beautifully.
Fine race from start to finish.
John Weigel is 2nd, but Steve Watson made his move just at the right moment.
Well, Steve Watson let Weigel lead throughout the entire race, and with a little less than 200 meters, decided to take a shot at it and just really goes by. And when he does go by, notice he just sprints right on by. He then doesn't settle back. He tries to open it up and does.
The emotion. Steve Watson, every ounce of his body put into finishing as the state champ in the Class AA 1600 meter run. The unofficial time of 4:17.11. Speed aplenty to be showcased in the Class A 200 meter dash. In lane 1, from Niantic Harristown, Brian Wickline. Lane 2, Bob Politza from Lamont. Lane 3, Brian Schwartz from Oregon. Lane 4, Chris Harper from Chicago U-High. Lane 5, Jubal Alvis from DuQuoin. Lane 6, also from DuQuoin, Sean Margram. Lane 7, Mark McLean from Lemoy. Lane 8, Terrell Robinson from Melrose Park, Walter Lutheran. And Lane 9, Kerwin Lowe from Caro. Should be another battle between Harper and Alvis.
Well, I agree. There are 3 young men again in this event that returned from last year's 200 meter dash final. You've got Harper, the defending champion, in 4. Kerwin Lowe out in lane 9 was 3rd a year ago, and Brian Wickline in lane 1 was 8th. Harper being the fastest qualifier out of yesterday's prelims and semifinals at 21:72. And he is out quick. I'll tell you, after 2 steps, Brian, he had the lead. And he is running this curve like he owns it. It is Harper, 100 meters to go. Jubal Alvis appears in 2nd at this point.
No one will catch Chris Harper. Some unbelievable running today for Chicago U-High's Chris Harper, and he just blew away from the pack that time.
He led it from start to finish.
Well, the gentlemen that have been fastest coming in, for the most part, have been fastest going out today.
Well, you know, you don't want to run the curve any different when you do the straightaway. You lean just a little bit, but boy, he is so powerful. Certainly, he is the class of this 200 meter dash field and shows it by winning by 8-9 yards.
When those shoulders are squared up, headed forward, there aren't many people going to catch Chris Harper, the Class A state champ in the 200 meter dash, an unofficial time of 21.66, and we'll return with the Class AA 200 meter dash right after this. The Class AA 200 meter dash awaits. In lane 1, Maceo Strickland from East Moline United. Lane 2, Chris Sims from Glen Ellen Glenbard South. Lane 3, Omari Banner of East St. Louis Lincoln. Lane 4, Tony Simmons, Chicago St. Rita. Lane 5, Kerwin Beatty, Hillside Proviso West. Lane 6, Carl Wilson, East St. Louis Senior. Lane 7, Carlton Clark, Olympia Fields Rich Central. Lane 8, Wayne Patton from Zion Benton. And lane 9, Monty Wheeler, I assure you no relation, from Decatur Eisenhower. And Kerwin Beatty, probably the man to catch, huh?
Well, he would be, Brian, if he were in this race. I noticed that he's been withdrawn. I'm sure due to the injury he may have sustained at the finish of the 100 meter dash. He is currently the state record holder in this event. He set a record in the semis yesterday at 21.18. So I'm sure it is a disappointment that he's not able to run in this final, but still a fine field.
Well, that opens it up just a bit, I would say then.
Tony Simmons, the next fastest qualifier out of the prelims and semifinals yesterday, followed by Omari Banner from East St. Louis Lincoln. They're away cleanly. Omari Banner on the inside, and in lane 1 also Maceo Strickland. But as they head for home, it's Wayne Patton from Zion Benton in lane 8. It is Wayne Patton at the finish, and too close to call for 2nd and 3rd.
Wayne Patton, certainly a happy young man.
Well, he's no stranger to this finish line either. He is one of 2 who returned from last year's meet in this event.
Right on the turn here.
Kerwin Beatty was the defending champ in this event, but Wayne Patton was 8th a year ago. So he's got the experience. He's been here before, and he ran the turn beautifully and held on to win this Class AA 200 meter dash.
Well, we've seen one state champ crowned today who was 9th last year, and now Wayne Patton moves from 8th to 1st, the Class AA state champ in the 200 meter dash from Zion Benton in an unofficial time of 21.59. Event number 18, the final one of the day, the Class A and Class AA 1600 meter relay finals are fast approaching. But first, let's take a look at the standings after 15 events, and Professor Hallberg has been analyzing whether or not these are insurmountable totals for the leaders. Let's look at Class A.
I think Caro's lock on winning it. Muhammad Seymour, the bulk of their points came from the field events, and I don't think they can score anymore. I think Caro, it's just a matter of how many.
And on the AA side,
MacArthur has got a comfortable lead, it appears. However, you got to remember Lincoln and East St. Louis Senior both scored in the 200-meter dash. They're both in the 1600-meter relay. It could still be very, very close and up for grabs.
Well, let's take a look at the lane assignments now for the Class A 1600-meter relay finals. In lane 1, Aledo. Lane 2, Newton. Lane 3, Anawan. Lane 4, Maple Park, Canelan. Lane 5, Arcola. Lane 6, Chicago's Providence St. Mel. Lane 7, Herscher. Lane 8, Villa Grove. And Lane 9, Rock Island, Alleman.
This is a great event. This is a great event to end the meet with. The fastest qualifier in this event yesterday in Class A was Arcola at 3:28.06. They're in lane 5. You've got Canelan in the inside on lane 4. They were the second fastest qualifier at 3:28.20. Arcola still a shot at a trophy, along with Chicago, Providence, St. Mel, and Herscher. The leadoff man will run in his lane the entire distance, and the number 2 runner will, after receiving the baton, stay in that lane through one full turn.
Keep in mind, this is 1600 meters.
Aledo in lane 1 running well. Has eaten up the stagger on lane 2 and 3 at this point. Rock Island Alleman leadoff man in lane 9 is running well also.
First time around the track, getting set for the first exchange.
Maple Park, Canelan in 4. Into the exchange zone first. Arcola and Maple Park, Canelan battling in lanes 4 and 5. We'll have a real clear picture as to who is out in front as they pass the break line. It is Canelan on Arcola.
That's where we expect the race to be concentrated. Still time left in this one.
Well, you're at a point right there on the curve where you have no alternative but to run a little bit wide. The pace is just fast enough that there's nothing you can do about it. You'd like to be on the pole, but you can't be sometimes. But it looks like Canelan's going to lead into this second exchange.
We haven't decided much as we hit the second exchange.
These exchanges are critical, and oftentimes you'll see a team run their top runner either in the leadoff leg or even second, so that second exchange can be made without obstruction. And a lead at that point is worth a whole lot. But you hate to see that baton slow down through the exchange zone. This looks like an accordion. They spread out, they come right back to one another. It is anybody's race, though Arcola, Canelan are battling up front.
This has the makings of the most competitive long-distance race we've had today.
Well, if you look at the qualifying times, both out of the sectional and the prelims yesterday, there was not much separating all of them. But it is Arcola. He had a great day yesterday in the prelims. Anawan followed by Rock Island Alleman in 4th, and then Herscher in 5th. Providence St. Mel now moving into 5th as it tightens back up on the back straightaway.
There's
Providence
some movement.
St. Mel reeling the front 4 in. Rock Island Alleman with 200 meters to go also positioning.
Look at these moves that are being made.
But the young man from Chicago, Providence St. Mel, is on a mission.
Boy, I'll say. But does he have enough left?
You can hear the crowd. They're on their feet. They're going to help these young men out. Kaneland battling back now with 50 meters to go. It's Arcola. Kaneland. Arcola. Oh, what a finish.
Sheer exhaustion at the finish line. But a terrific race. Wow.
Well, 1 and 2 might have been easy to pick, I'll tell you. 3rd, 4th, and 5th. We may have to look at the photo.
And the execution of that race from just about every team in it was near flawless. Arcola had the lead for most of the final lap, and it was just a question, could they hang on?
Well, at this point, it looked like any of those 5 or 6 young men might legitimately go on and win this race. The young man from Kaneland had no choice, but he had to move out into lane 3, as you saw. It gave him room. But Arcola held off the challenge. Here you see the spacing. There's not a lot of room. But Arcola holds on.
So Arcola and Kaneland, the 2 schools we showcased up front, turned out to be 1 and 2, with Arcola taking the Class A state championship in the 1600 meter relay, the unofficial time of 3:27.62. Well, a terrific Class A 1600 meter relay final, and now the final race of the day, the Class AA 1600 meter relay championship, to be decided between these schools. In lane 1, Springfield Lanphier. Lane 2, East St. Louis Lincoln. Lane 3, Evanston Township. Lane 4, South Holland Thornwood. Lane 5, East St. Louis Senior. Lane 6, Bloomington. Lane 7, Peoria Manual. Lane 8, Danville. And lane 9, Downers Grove South. And we showed you those Class AA team standings through 15 events. And there still is some hope for East St. Louis Lincoln or East St. Louis Senior, but they're going to need a strong showing in this one to have any kind of a chance to catch MacArthur.
This is going to be a great race. You've got 4 teams that ran in this a year ago: Lincoln, Evanston, East St. Louis Senior, and Bloomington. East St. Louis Senior was the fastest qualifier yesterday, 3:18.79. South Holland Thornwood at 3:21.12 was second. Bloomington was the 3rd fastest qualifier, 3:23.10. And Evanston was the 4th fastest qualifier at 3:23.66. And the wind was brutal, much like it is today. With the state championship and certainly a trophy for the top 3 places at stake, this race is going to decide, perhaps, the final finish among the AA teams.
Just about everyone in the crowd on their feet for this final event. And just as was the case in the Class A 1600 meter relay qualifying, not much to choose from insofar as the times were concerned yesterday. All the makings of a great climax. The 1992 IHSA Boys Track and Field Championships. Can East St. Louis Lincoln or East St. Louis Senior
on your mark
emerge as a Class AA title holder? We'll soon see.
Set.
We'll try to call this one too, but it is even through the first 150 meters. George Wilson from Lanphier in lane 1 has eaten up the stagger in lane 2, on lane 2. And in lane 8, Danville also has closed the stagger on lane 9. Again, that leadoff runner will stay in his lane the entire distance. The number 2 runner will receive the baton in that same lane and run through the first turn of the second lap in the same lane. But as they head for the first exchange, it is East St. Louis Senior now taking the lead. It is East St. Louis Senior into the exchange zone first, followed by Bloomington, East St. Louis, Lincoln, and Evanston. Senior out in front. But we'll see things close right back up as soon as they cross the brake line, and they do.
There was a lot of movement around this next turn on the first lap. We'll see if lap number 2 provides the same story. Senior, it appears, will hold on through 2 laps.
Well, they look strong. They look great. They've spent their entire season battling their counterpart in East St. Louis, Lincoln. They're tremendously well prepared for any challenge they meet in this state meet year in and year out. And you can see that baton in some cases gets through the exchange zones much more quickly than in other cases. You don't want the baton to slow down through the zone. But Senior with about a 10-meter lead now over Lincoln, followed by Evanston, Bloomington, and now Thornwood. Thornwood moving in to 4th and challenging for 3rd as things start to tighten up.
Boy, the makings of a great last lap here.
Both, as we said moments ago, both Senior and Lincoln are battling for 2nd and 3rd, but in the process, they're both going to enhance their chances to move up on Decatur MacArthur by these high finishes in this relay. We're into the gun lap. It's Senior, Lincoln, Evanston, and Thornwood.
So the 2 schools that need to score big are doing so right now. But still some time to make up some ground in this last lap.
Well, East St. Louis Senior had the better of the qualifying times out of the sectional. Although you can never count East St. Louis Lincoln out when these 2 teams meet. Evanston making a bid now on the outside as they head for home. But it is Senior. It is Senior, followed by Lincoln, Evanston, and Thornwood.
Close for 3rd, but East St. Louis Senior does what they had to do to gain some points. And we'll have to check those standings to see if they got enough. But East St. Louis Senior finishes first. Their neighbors, East St. Louis Lincoln, finishing 2nd, and very tight for 3rd. But Senior holding the lead for much of this race. Your Class AA 1600-meter relay champ is East St. Louis Senior in an unofficial time of 3:21.06. We have the trophy presentations coming up next. Back in Charleston, the state champions are about to be given their trophies in both Class A and AA. Let's take a look at the final standings in Class A. Carroll emerging the winner, a tight race for 2nd. Mahatma Seymour had the 2nd spot after 15 events, but they ultimately finished 3rd, and Chicago U-High finishing 2nd. And the 3rd place recipients, Mahatma Seymour in Class A. And in 2nd place in Class A, Chicago U-High. They're the boys from Chicago U-High. And the state champions in Class A, they led for most of today's proceedings, Caro. Terrific day for them, Lee.
Yes, it was. Jim West has done a fine job. They're always a factor in this state meet, and it certainly is no surprise that they had the depth again and quality of depth to win this 1992 state meet.
So U-High assumes the second place trophy. And Caro, coached by Jim West, will take home the top prize in Class A. Some terrific competition here today at O'Brien Stadium.
This is a point in every meet where it's so difficult to get everybody together because reporters want to talk to the coach. They want to talk to some of the top performers. The parents are wanting to celebrate with their young men, and understandably so. And it's a moment that is somewhat bittersweet. You're glad that on the one hand that the season's over, but on the other, you'd like for this moment to last forever.
Well, these young men go through a lot of hard work throughout the year, and the reward on a day like today, be it first, second, or third, it's often hard to tell the difference because everyone is just so excited to be able to take home the trophy, and you can see it is one valuable piece of property. And now the winners from Caro, as they are headed to the trophy stand to pick up that very beautiful first place prize. The 1992 Class A state champions from Caro by a 16-point margin over second place Chicago U-High.
Everybody wants a piece of it. And one thing they'll be able to take with them from this meet, though, and have forever, are the memories of this great day.
What does Coach Mitch mean you ain't going to be here next year? You can run.
Well, Jim West, the head coach at Caro, a lot to be proud about. His young men came into today's event, and anytime you win a meet like this by 16 points, you know that they have performed admirably.
Well, what I think is amazing is that they come over to this meet year in and year out, and it looks like a normal track meet, just a regular invitational for a team like Caro. Not only, you know, for most of us, we'd have 2, maybe 3 entries or 4 or 5 kids. He brings a team over, and he's entered in most of the events. And consequently, the end result is such that if he doesn't have some young men that win several events, he's got enough quality athletes that they place high and they score the points. And once again here this year, though they may not have had a lot of individual winners, they had enough young men score in a variety of events that gave them enough points to win this thing. And I think that's the real measure of a team. It's often easy to overlook the team concept in this sport, and people think of it still as an individual event.
Caro takes the state title in Class A, and now the final standings in Class AA. And a tight race here. Boy, East St. Louis Senior and East St. Louis Lincoln with those strong performances, finishing 1-2 in the final event, but not quite enough to catch Decatur MacArthur with 46 points, 3 better than East St. Louis Lincoln and 8 better than East St. Louis Senior. But boy, it took Decatur MacArthur in their final event, the Class AA 300 intermediate hurdles, Marcus Phillips winning that final event, and were he to finish anywhere but first, it could have been catastrophic for the championship chances of Decatur MacArthur. But a strong finish for East St. Louis Senior, and they know they took the top prize in the final event of the day, and they take the 3rd place trophy home in Class AA.
MacArthur was done scoring after that 300 intermediate hurdle race. With 3 events remaining, both Senior and Lincoln had entries in those final events, but fortunately for MacArthur, they had outdistanced the other 2 schools, and it was enough for them to hang on and win.
Some terrific athletic programs at both East St. Louis Senior and East St. Louis Lincoln, and it is East St. Louis Lincoln that is headed toward the trophy stand to pick up the 2nd place prize in the 1992 Boys Track and Field Championships.
Well, this is not a new sight. You know, when we talk about tradition and its effect in athletic programs, certainly Lincoln and Senior are two programs that have enjoyed rich histories of great track and field tradition. MacArthur is likewise in the recent 10 to 15 years has done an outstanding job.
Well, and now some exuberant youngsters from the school that is going to walk away with the top prize in AA competition for 1992, Decatur MacArthur, coached by Bill Harbeck.
That's a real honor, I'm sure, not only for Bill and his team, but the Big 12 Conference in the central part of the state. We've run against him many times. He does a nice job, as does Leonard Manley at East St. Louis Lincoln and John Davis at East St. Louis Senior.
Well, there are your Class AA 1992 state champs from Decatur MacArthur, and we'll return with more from Charleston after this. As we wrap things up from O'Brien Stadium, we have some very special people to thank. From the IHSA, President Thomas G. Power, Vice President Lauren J. Stevens, Executive Directors Linda C. Lane, Leroy Newton, William C. Mitz, and Larry Stinson. Secretary Edward F. Roberts, Treasurer H. Fred Curtis, Executive Directors Ola Bundy, who was also our event coordinator today, Jim Flynn, and Dave Kidwell and his staff from the Sports Information Office at Eastern Illinois University. This IHSA Championship event has been produced and directed by Rick Godwin. The executive producer for Sports Channel is Greg Bowman. Remote facilities have been provided by Trio Video. Once again, the 1992 Illinois State Track and Field champions are Carroll in Class A and Decatur MacArthur in Class AA. For Lee Holberg, I'm Brian Wheeler saying so long from Charleston, Illinois. The preceding has been an exclusive presentation of Sports Channel.